video recording, but then there's nothing there.
Right. I know. The last meeting wasn't recorded for some reason. So.
Uh-oh, we'll get accused of something.
Of course you are. You know that. Yes, sir. We already.
I call the April meeting of the Civil Service Commission to order. Before we go into any of the items, open the floor for any public comment on anything not on the agenda. Several items on the agenda tonight. Any comment on any items not on the agenda? None forthcoming. First order of business, approval of the March meeting minutes. You have those in front of you. They were provided to you earlier by email. If you will review those and entertain a motion to approve those. I will mention, as you're looking at those, we did approve, Commissioner Peterson, you were not here last month, we did approve 2015 testing dates for the 4 lower level positions. So that is public knowledge at this point and is reflected as such in the minutes. You have some, if you're looking through those, you have some additional pages behind your minutes. You don't need to refer to those. Those will be attached to this meeting.
I move minutes be approved.
I have a motion that the minutes be approved as written. Do I have a second on the motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
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 Any opposed say no. Minutes are approved as written. All of the items on the agenda tonight are items that we've at least touched on previously and are coming back to us. First item is...
Mr. Chair,
yes.
if I can, before on the agenda, I would like to, the discussion of the veterans preference and entry-level testing, I would like to have that pulled from the agenda tonight. There are still some unanswered questions that we need to get before we want to present that to the body.
Okay. We'll just do that in form of motion. I move that we table the item on veterans preference and entry-level testing. Table that until the city brings that to us. So table that indefinitely until they bring that to us. That's the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion?
That is for which two things, I'm sorry?
Just one.
The last item on the agenda
Just the one?
is veterans preference
Okay.
for entry-level testing. Commissioner Ortega.
Okay, that's everything else concerning the extra credits other than the veterans preference is still on board.
It's just the veterans preference is all taken off the agenda. So had a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
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 Any opposed say no. And again, we will just table that indefinitely, and the city you can bring that back to us as you're ready.
Yes, sir.
All right. First item on the agenda, if you recall, we and it was in the minutes, we had asked HR to kind of formalize some action steps on the testing notification process. You know, we'd had some issues with date notifications or apparent issues, so we'd asked Director James to address that. He has done so. Director James, if you want to present your piece you have on that item.
You should have a memorandum in front of you, RE promotional and entry-level exam announcement process. And you notice we say we have already instituted the following measures to announce CSE examinations. These are already in place. The test schedules have been posted on the Civil Service Commission webpage, located on the City of Maumelle website. That's out there. Test schedules have been posted on the HR webpage, located on the City of Maumelle website. If you come into the HR office, you will see that the test schedules have been posted on the bulletin board in HR. And we have sent the test schedules to the chiefs and their administrative assistants for posting in their facilities. Also, as we announce the dates of the test, we will put this information out there again. And the information on all of the tests from now on will have the, I know I'm jumping just a little bit, but you also have in your packet city weighted scales. This will be included in all announcements that we make, and they're also included right now on the city web pages, the Civil Service Commission HR, and on the HR office. And we also sent those to the offices of the chief. So this should cut down on confusion, and this is a good thing. So everyone shall know when the test is going to be given and what the weight and scale is for that particular position. This has already been done, it's in place.
And I did look at it on the, Director James showed me on both websites, so I've looked at it. It is, as he said, it's there on the websites. And I did see it posted in the HR office, and of course don't know about the departments, but working on the assumption it's posted there. So, any discussion on that? Any questions? Any continued concerns from the commission or from the floor on that notification process? Commissioner Ortega, everything okay there for you on the notification? Commissioner Durham? All right, again, I open the floor. Any concerns on that process at this point? Again, those dates are established for the 4 positions already. And then just to, in November, Director James, you know, there's like a week leeway there. He can do the written testing anytime within that week. We've established the week. So by November, he will establish which day of that week. And that's what he was talking about, the communication that will go out at that time, restating all of this, restating the percentages. And then, of course, the fire department has a 3-week window on their assessment center. So we would hope by November they would be able to pour that into a definite date, so all this can be communicated again. All right, any other discussion on that item? Next item, as you know, we had some issues, some questions, some concerns on the test scoring calculation, and the commission last month directed me to, since Director James was out for the meeting, to meet with him afterwards and discuss those concerns and address those. So, Director James, you have your other piece there too.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to apologize to the commission for those errors. They came out of my office. They were my responsibility. And again, I apologize. They should not have occurred. And I'm glad that we have now put some steps in place to alleviate that possibility of occurring again. Can't use the word eliminate because we can't eliminate errors from humans. We all human. We still make errors. But this process here, in the past, and this is effective immediately, each administrator of the promotional exam process, and there are 3 basic processes: written, departmental assessment, and oral. Each administrator of the promotional exam process will tabulate their scores on the documents that they use. The completed documents will then be forwarded to HR for inclusion in the ranking process. HR will compile the scores using the appropriate CSC scoring system and rank each candidate in accordance therewith. This is the big one, and I think this is what this gives everyone an opportunity on this commission before they go in there and certify something to see what has been done and to raise any issues prior to certification. HR will prepare an Excel spreadsheet that you have in front of you. detailing the applicant ranking for each position. The spreadsheet will be forwarded to each commission for review. Following the commissioner's review and acceptance, then the list will be certified. So what you will have, this is the grading scale here. You will have each candidate, like that example down there below, that would be an individual. And you will have this on each individual, their individual scores and how we came up with this ranking. You will have that prior to coming to HR and asking, when we ask for certification. Now, this is going to slow the process down. In the past, we've been trying to get, and that's probably a flaw, we've been more concerned about getting the results to the candidates so that they can have that off of their radar, because they got other things that they're worried about or concerned about. What we're proposing to do is least from the time that you are at least a minimum of 3 days for you all to look at this information before we ask for certification. So if you have any questions or you want to come by HR and look at the individual sheets, you will have that opportunity. Thereby, HR has looked at it. It's been checked by each commissioner before certification, and after the certification process, there are 2 weeks that each person that is applied can come by HR, and they can look at their the test scores, and they will have an opportunity, if they have any concerns, to raise those issues. I think that's a good thing, and I think it's just something that I wish we had done prior to, and this should alleviate that possibility of us doing something or putting somebody in the wrong position.
Questions, comments? I'll just make a couple of comments. And I'll actually probably repeat, but he has set this up on a sheet where this can electronically be calculated. Then, of course, if he's like me, he goes back and manually checks the electronics and vice versa. Each commissioner, again, will have a copy of this by individual. So each commissioner can sit there with a pen and paper and manually do the calculation and verify this is correct, however extent they want to do that. And then, again, the applicant will have this availability to see this exact same sheet and can do this exact same calculation. So I think that basically, with that said, you will have really 5, probably 6 complete sets of eyes, probably 2 in HR, the 5 of us, and the applicant looking at this exactly as it is calculated. And again, you can never say 100%, but I think it will eliminate the possibility or the probabilities that we've had before. So does this address concerns? I'll ask commissioners first and then ask the floor. Does this address the concerns?
Yes.
Process?
Yes.
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 I'll open that up to the floor. Does this address the concerns appropriately, this part? All right, so Director James, we'll proceed with that as being our method of operation. Okay. All right, so we've addressed the notification process, improved steps in the scoring, and we appreciate Director James putting this together for us. And as he said, it's a positive step and good step, and I think will be a benefit to us. The next item on the agenda, Director James has brought or wants to bring to us just a discussion on testing, written testing, questions and so forth, and this is actually a new item. We listed it, I guess, under old business. We have not actually brought this up since over a year ago. I guess we talked about a similar process, but Director James, open the floor for you again.
What I've done preliminarily, I've sent out to 4 different agencies or companies, asking them to look at the possibility of doing a customized test for our promotional processes, thereby allowing us to put into the test standard operating procedures from the various departments and local laws or state laws as they apply. And I think that test would be a minimum of 60% of the test would be comprised of that information. I've got tentative number of $37 per question. So on a 100-question test, you'd be looking at $37 times that. I've gotten that information only from one company. I'm waiting from the other 4. Hopefully they will come in with something, and that will give us something to negotiate. However, I think this will allow us to, 2 things. Going back to the other process, one of the things that hurts in the review process from the applicants is that when we have a standardized test, we usually have about 2 weeks before we have to send that test back to them. All of that material has to go back to them. So when the candidates want to come in, they can look at their sheet, but they don't have the test to refer back to. If we customize the test is ours, so we can keep it. And what we've done here, it allows us more time. We put some more things into our test process, so we're not having to push to try to meet a deadline so that everyone can have equal access to the information that they need to review the process. The other thing is that part of the problem that we have, or we hear from our applicants or candidates, is that the tests are so general that a lot of the information that they're tested on does not apply to what they do here. By us incorporating their standard, their SOPs and state laws, that's applicable. And that should make the test better for everyone. And it's more relevant to what they're doing. So we're exploring that possibility, and what I would like to do is continue this possibility, get the numbers together, and I've got to go inside before I come back outside here. Before he's looking down, but I got to go there before I can come back in here because those are budget items. But if we can get this done, I think it would be a better process for our candidates and more relevant to what they're doing.
Oh, I have one light on. Let me make a couple of observations before. We've kind of discussed this in some other terms before. And I support what Director James is trying to do here personally. Realize this would be a test by an accredited testing company. At one time we came up with a discussion of a locally developed test, which I am adamantly, personally opposed to that. I think that's just a problem. But this would be an accredited test. So basically, Director James would send them the procedures in its entirety. They have access, obviously, to state law, and we send them city code, city ordinances. So they would develop the test. It would still not be a locally developed test, but it would be a customized test using local information. So to me, that is again, I would not sit here and vote for a locally developed test, but this I would. I think this does make it more relevant, and I think the thing that, to me, is a positive, Director James is, and the city is attempting to do this to make it a better test. As a commission, and I don't want to say it or make it sound this way, our job is to make sure it's a fair test, not necessarily a better test. I mean, if that makes sense. Our job is to make it a fair test. So with this process, if he's able to do this with an accredited testing company, that we can assure it's a fair test, it has met our concerns, and then it's met the city's concern of trying to make it a better test. Obviously, the budget issue is totally Director James and the mayor and the powers that be there. So that is strictly, if they choose to spend that money to do that, then believe that I will support this. If they choose not to spend the money, then obviously that's not within our realm of discussion. So that's kind of some points there. Commissioner Peterson.
If we customize a test, and I guess this gets into the money figures too, which I know we're not really that's not our concern. Is it going to be repetitive each year? Are we going to get the same set of questions every year? Or are they going to customize it each year and we pay them again?
What we would do, they would probably come out with about 200 or 300 questions, and we would pull from those.
And you can just pull from
We
those?
would pull from those.
And realize this is somewhat preliminary.
Right.
So we're not ready to approve, we're not being asked to approve anything at this point in time. It's just more of an information that he wants to pursue this, and I assume that the administration, the mayor is involved in wanting to at least explore this. And again, I think it's well worth it. It may come back as a no-go. I mean, it may be
Absolutely.
costly, it may be other concerns like you just had that may come back to us that it's a no-go. But at this point, he's wanting to proceed.
My only concern would be the second time you took the test, you may have an advantage because you may recognize the questions.
That can, again, I don't think that can be
But if they're going to
something
give you a pool of that many to draw from, you could.
That's what we're going to
Ramble
see.
around.
That's what we're going to see.
Well, and it's unlikely that they're going to have anyone taking a test any closer together than 1 year. I mean, we typically only test once a year, so but that's a pretty long time
They'd forget about it by then.
for most people.
I would.
So, again, we don't necessarily need a motion here. It's just that Director James wanted to pursue it. I just kind of asked for a signal. I agree with him going ahead and pursuing and investigating this. Is that a consensus of the commission?
Yes.
Yes.
Comments from the floor on that process? Any concerns at this point? Again, it's very preliminary, but. All right, so Director James, you'll bring that back to us. And the only other comment is just, obviously from a time standpoint, as hard as it is to believe, we'll be looking at mid-year here very shortly, and we want to know, where we can communicate to the individuals. So obviously within the next couple of months, we want to try to have this buttoned up. So, okay. All right, any other questions, comments, concerns on that? All right, next item was, as you recall, we had a discussion brought forward by Commissioner Ortega back in the fall on the possibility of considering seniority in the promotional testing process. At that time, we, because of being late in the year, we obviously did not want to go back and affect anything for this past year or cause any confusion, so we asked that it be brought back, or we said that it would be brought back in March for discussion. We did bring it back up last month. Secretary Harrington moved that we table it last month because we did not have a full commission. And so we did that, so we will bring the item back up tonight for discussion. And this, again, was Commissioner Ortega had brought this up for consideration, so I'm going to open the floor to Commissioner Ortega, and we'll take the discussion from there.
Okay. As you know, it was previously proposed. It was also met with some opposition. The common premise of the opposition was that it would promote employees who are otherwise unpromotable. I feel that adding these benefits to the promotion process would go way beyond that. It would bring more fairness to the promotion process, and in my opinion, it would put Maumelle more in line with other cities within Arkansas. Allowing points for time and service and time and grade, as well as extra points for education, is a common occurrence both in the federal, state, and local government sectors. Military uses time and service, time and grade, not so much for promotion, but for placement of positions of authority. In other words, if you have 2 E5 sergeants and you can only have one of them running a unit, well, the one that's got the more time in service or the more time in grade is going to be the one selected normally to lead that unit. The federal government also uses it for placement of persons within equal pay grades within leadership roles. Other departments in Arkansas also give points for assessment for time and grade and time in service, and also for education. Little Rock Police Departments and Fire Departments both give extra credit for seniority as well as for education within their promotion process. City of Russellville Fire Department gives on entry level gives 5 points added to the score for applicants who possess a valid Firefighter II certificate from the Arkansas Fire Training Academy. Furthermore, they'll give 5 points for having a valid basic emergency medical technician license from the Arkansas Fire Academy. The police and fire departments, both in the event of tied scores, will use time and service to break the tie. If there is equal scores and equal time and service, then the tie will be broken by a lottery. So these policies are common within the state of Arkansas. They are sanctioned by the Arkansas Academies for both police and fire training and standards. They have also been upheld in legal opinions by the Arkansas Attorney General's office. So in light of this, I'm also amending the previous proposal that I made to, besides the time and service and time and grade, to include credit for education. I passed out the promotional guidelines for the city of Little Rock for the police department. Well, I gave you all the one for the fire engineer, fire captain, and battalion chief. And on page 6 of that, it explains the educational points that are given, what the criteria is for that. And then on page 9, the credit for seniority. I only gave you the one for the fire department because basically the fire department and the police department is word for word, except for how they weigh the credits.
We'll open it up for discussion. So Commissioner Ortega is proposing, or at least asking for discussion on both education point, which we had not, I don't think, mentioned before, but education point, possibility of credit there, and seniority. Let's kind of address the seniority issue first, since that is the one that we had previously discussed. I know we had comments from the floor last time, so I'll open it up for any commissioner or from the floor for any comments on the process at this time. Secretary Harrington.
It's not clear to me how this makes it more fair. You made that statement that it makes it more fair. I'm not sure I understand that.
Okay. The city of Little Rock uses these credits in their promotion and in their hiring. Other cities that I would consider major cities in the state of Arkansas also use time and service and time and grade. By Maumelle increasing their standards, so to speak, to include these, it would put us more in line with Little Rock and with cities like Jonesboro or Russellville, or in considering their appointments.
Other discussion?
Interim Chief Payne, Longmore Fire Department. While on the front, I think it sounds like a fair and equitable thing. I think the one thing that bothers me about it is that you could have a person that would sit in a position for a number of years. And since we haven't assigned a point scale, whether it's per year or just because he's got more seniority, he gets a point. I don't know what the scale is, what the weighting is. It makes it really difficult. But a person could sit in a position for a number of years and then all of a sudden realize I'm getting close to retirement, so I need to promote because my retirement is based on the number of my last 3 years of income. It doesn't mean that that person is better qualified or more educated, and certain education certainly that way certainly helps me in that respect. But it does not mean that that person is going to be the best person for the job. Constantly, when you're looking at promotions into a new position like that, I think we're looking for the best of the best, not someone who has been in neutral for a long period of time. We will be looking at education and requirements before and during a person's promotional, so that they can have the right skill level. But I am concerned without something here saying this is how much weight. If a person had 20 years and you gave them 20 points, they could smoke everybody, and I'm very concerned about that. So I'm thinking that in discussion at this time, I probably could not support it.
Other comments from the floor?
And like I said, there's not anything saying how many points they get or anything like that. So, but my concern would be, and I'm going to use the Army example. Let's say we've got a general and he gets demoted for whatever reason. He broke the rules and got demoted. There was a cheating scandal at the ballistic missiles, and the guy got demoted the other day because he was helping his underlings cheat on a test. He got demoted. Well, all of a sudden now he gets demoted, but then he takes a test for general again, and he's got 25 years of service. I mean, you're going to give him extra points even though he's been demoted from a higher rank back. And so that's a concern of mine. If there's got to be something in there that addresses something like that, I think. But that's a concern that I have.
Chief?
I don't have much to add other than my previous comments on the subject, and I just wanted to mention that I think almost basically what we're talking about is a tie or something, if it was used as a tiebreaker between maybe 3 and 4, simply because the rule of 3 still gives the department head, police or fire chief, the right to pick any of the top 3 anyhow. So if there were a tie, then the police chief would just do his job and pick from the top 3, which the Civil Service Commission already gives us the right to do. So I think in that respect, we already have a tiebreaker. It's called the police chief, and then we make a decision.
No, I'd comment on that also. Again, with the rule of 3, realize our job is just to do the list. I mean, we have nothing to do with the promotion. There's a perception that we have something to do with promotion. We don't make those decisions. All we do is compile the list in order. So again, the chiefs can consider any criteria they want to consider. They can consider seniority. They can consider performance. They can consider anything as long as it doesn't violate the law. They can use whatever discretion within that rule of 3 they want. Obviously, education can certainly be a part of that, and I'm assuming the chief would probably, if he had 3 candidates, he probably does look at their education as part of his criteria. So some of this can be done at that level as opposed to putting it as a part of our rules. So I agree with Chief Williams that there is part of that can be considered. Other discussion, Commissioner Daggett.
I would like to, if I could, share this with both chiefs so they could look at their departments in Little Rock. And it says in here what the breakdown of points are. I'd like these back, but I could certainly give you copies of these to keep these cells.
Do you want your notes back?
No, I was just where I had it highlighted.
You get to look at it, but you gotta give it back.
Oh.
Yeah, and I'll make
I think
another.
I've seen most.
Yeah.
Up to captain's level, or assistant chief's level, I've seen them all.
Yeah.
I have concerns that on this. Now, I do support, and I think I said this last meeting, maybe a little different than what Chief Williams said. I do support this as a tiebreaker for the list. If you had two guys scored, come out with a total score of 90, then I do support using seniority as a tiebreaker there, is which one is number one, which one is number two. So I fully support seniority as a tiebreaker. I'm having trouble with it as an initial part of the scoring, but I do support it as a tiebreaker. Commissioner Peterson.
I would support it as a tiebreaker, but only as Chief Williams mentioned a minute ago, if it were number 3 and number 4, to see who went on the top 3.
Well, what if you, in theory, what if you had number 1 and number 2 that were tied? We would still need to break that tie to see which one, even though he gets 3 for ranking the list, I think, I would propose using it as a tiebreaker on the list. So what if he ended up with, it's not going to happen, but what if we ended up with 4 candidates that had the exact same score? And we got, so to me, you would use seniority as the tiebreaker to give him the top 3.
I think we're saying the same thing. Basically, I think we're saying the same
Basically,
thing.
right.
Your light's still on from, I don't remember this on from last time.
It's still on from the last time, but I would like to add a little something to what y'all were saying.
Go ahead.
Having been in civil service for 35 years, I'm kind of partial to, biased to the way I proposed it, but I can certainly see what you all are saying, and I would be flexible in getting it put in as a tiebreaker as opposed to it across the board.
The real concern that I have with and we all, you may have police officer, firefighter, you may have an outstanding police officer, an outstanding firefighter that is the best, and he is outstanding at everything, but he is not cut out to be a supervisor. We all know that. When we have people that's just not. So that's where my concern on the seniority in these departments come in, that you could have a situation where a person that is just not cut out to lead a department in a managerial command role, even though the seniority gives him points, and his work performance may indeed give him points. Now again, the police chief and fire chief can kind of deal with that in their rule of 3, but that's where my concern is on that. Commissioner Durham.
Chief Payne's comments, are these your personal comments, or are these from the fire department?
Over mine.
Okay. I'd like to hear the personal comments from the fire department.
Now, do we have anybody like to speak on this as a fire department representative? I realize that you may not be capable of speaking as a representative on, but would anybody like to speak?
We've not had formal discussions amongst ourselves, so I would hate to.
Okay.
I couldn't make any statement that was representative.
Okay. Other discussion? Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to, I don't remember who was here last time, so I would like to reiterate that my comments at the last meeting were those from the department, not mine.
Commissioner Ortega.
Okay, I would like to say one thing specifically with what Mr. Mayor had pointed out about poor old general that got demoted. Efficiency reports and a person's successability within his position. I'm sure all of that would still play a large part of how he rates on the promotional scale.
All right, bring the discussion around. I'm prepared to make a motion from my standpoint that the seniority be used as a, now again, let me back up. We cannot vote this into effect tonight. This would be a rule change that would require public hearing. So anything we do tonight is basically directing the city attorney to word something to bring back to us next month. But I am prepared to propose that we do institute seniority as a tiebreaker in the initial process, but only as a tiebreaker. Now, if Commissioner Commissioner Ortega wants to present a different motion, we can do that. But my motion, if I make a motion, would be that we could use it as a tiebreaker, but not as a part of the initial scoring process. So do you want to make a motion?
I will adopt your motion.
All right, so the motion is, and again, realize that this is just a motion. The motion is to ask or direct, whatever the proper word is, the city attorney to word us a rule change using seniority as a tiebreaker only in the promotional process to create the promotional list.
Is that all the way through 1 through 3, or is it between 3 and 4?
I would say as a tiebreaker for the entire list. I mean, if you've got first of all, let me say the odds of this happening are pretty slim. Director James carries this out 2 decimal points, so you're down to the hundredths of a point. But having said that, in this last round, I believe we had a situation where there was only 3 hundredths of a point separating 2 candidates. So the odds are against it happening, but the possibility is there. So again, my motion would be that that it just be used as a tiebreaker. So if there's any tie anywhere on the list, seniority would break that tie as far as placement on the list. But it would only be used for that purpose as a tiebreaker on the list. That is the motion. Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. I'd ask Madam City Attorney, you understand what we're looking at?
I think so. Seniority only, correct?
Right, right. Yeah, we'll come back and address. So, motion is to ask City Attorney to direct a rule change concerning the use of seniority as a tiebreaker on the promotional list. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed say no.
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 Roll call vote. Commissioner Peterson?
No.
Secretary Harrington?
No.
Commissioner Ortega?
Yes.
Commissioner Durham?
No.
Chairman Chapman? Yes. What was my count?
3 to 2.
3 to 2.
3 to 2.
noes.
Yes.
3 to 2, yes.
So basically, we've taken no action at all at this point.
They can come up again.
Do I assume, based on that vote, that there would not be support if a motion were made on Commissioner Ortega's original proposal to use seniority as a part of the process? I'm kind of assuming that would be a no vote.
That would be my assumption.
So I just don't feel that we've got votes to it at this point, so, all right, so that will leave that as it is. The only issue I would say, again, if we were to come up with a exact tie, we actually have nothing in the rules that tell how we as a commission deal with that. It's never happened before, probably will never happen, but again, we have nothing in the rules that gives us, if we were to get that phone call from Director James saying we had ties, we have nothing at this point.
As far as I'm concerned, though, if it doesn't occur between 3 and 4, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, you
Me too.
give the Chiefs get 3 names, they can do what they want to with
I
it.
think the tiebreaker needs to be left with the Chiefs.
All right, so that issue at this point, we will not be using seniority either as a tiebreaker or in the weighting of the promotional process. Since it was brought up in the discussion, we'll go back to the education part of it. That was not on the agenda, but since it has been brought up, we can table that until next month, since we've not really had time to think about that or talk about that part of it. But I'll open the floor for any discussion on the educational part of the question.
I would move we table it till next month, so we've had some time to think about it.
Have a motion to table that for
I'll
30
second.
days. Motion and second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed say no. So again, the educational part of it, we'll put that back on the agenda next month, and can have the same discussion there that we've had tonight on the seniority. All right, that brings us to another question or another item that came up just as a part of this discussion. We talked about tiebreaker. Quite honestly, I've never thought about tiebreaker. It's never been in the realm of my thinking that there's nothing in our rules that gives us a procedure for dealing with that. So I did put here on the entry level possibility of tiebreakers on the entry level, which are probably much more likely than on the promotional level, just because you got a larger pool of candidates. At this point, again, we have no way of breaking a tie if we were to have 5 candidates score 90 on the test. So I'll open the floor for discussion of a tie break on the in-hire process. Director James.
Mr. Chair, this does happen. We do have ties, because the only thing on the entry level is pure written. So if someone, you can have 3 or 4 people that have 70. Now, when we send, and I think this is where the clarification, we would like to have clarification. We send the top 3. If we get 4 people with 90, what top 3 do we send? We have no way right now of breaking, and that can occur. So rather than us do something like the last name, if your last name happens to be Zebra, you don't get in. Okay. We do this, since this has come up, this does need to be looked at, because this does happen. And we're only supposed to send 3. Now, I'm going to leave this up to the commission. I'm not opposed to sending more than 3. I don't know if the law will allow us to do that. So we may be bound by law to only be able to send 3. So we need clarification on that. And I don't even tell you what we've been doing, so we'll leave that alone.
Again, I do think this one, because it is much more, again, here you're 100 questions. Like you said, you could have 6 people score the same score. It is an issue, because obviously if you're just leaving this to a kind of a seat of the pants deal, you could get into gender issues, you could get into racial issues. I mean, you could get into all kind of issues there. What my thought is here is that, and again, Madam City Attorney, I don't believe this would violate the law, but is that, again, if there's no, it's hard to phrase, if there's no clean cutoff for number 3, I mean, if you had 3 guys score 90, then that's the 3. He gets those 3. If you have 2 guys score 90, guys score 90, and 2 score 89, then it seems to me that we could put in our rules that we would not break that tie, so he would actually get 4 names as opposed to 3. Because you've got no legitimate way of breaking that tie. How do you say that those 2 89s, how do you differentiate between those 2? So, Madam City Attorney may need to look at that. I
That's
do
the
know
question.
that in one of the, it might have been something Commissioner Ortega brought, but I did read where there was a something about, in one rule somewhere where it said tiebreakers are not used. Well, if they're not using tiebreaker, I assume they're given the total of, so, you may need to do a little bit of research
Let me do
there.
some research there, because of course, in the example, I think it's easy to say, sure, you just go ahead and give the 4 names, but what if you have 6 people who make an 89? So then do you give 8 names? I mean, it kind of can get a little further afield, and I don't know what the statistical probability of that would be, but I'd want to look at that.
So you would, again, in my mind, you would only give the top 3 individuals, but where there's no way to break that 3rd individual from a 4th or a 5th or a 6th.
Well, I think
So,
the first question is, can we legally send more than 3 names? I
Not
think
according to our rules right now.
That's right. So
Right.
if that is something that we did, that's not state law.
Well, it's I'm not quite willing to step that
Right.
far
Well,
out
I
there
think that's
without
the
looking at it, because our rules are based pretty tightly on state law. So let me look at
I think
that
that's
and
the first
see
question. Absolutely.
where that if we do have some flexibility in that to change that rule. I'm not confident. I couldn't tell you that right now.
Commissioner Ortega.
In my proposal, one of the cities that I mentioned uses lottery when you get a position where you got people with the same score and they had the same time in service and whatnot. Then they would break that tie with lottery. If you have 8 or 9 people that all score 90, then why not just drop each one's last name in a hat or whatever and pull out who's going to be on the list.
And there's no concern about discrimination if it's a random process. If there's some claim that it's an intentional process and that process has led to a discriminatory activity toward one group or another, that's something different. But if it is a random process, a lottery, number, however, whatever it is, I mean, even alphabetical, quite frankly, is still, I think, probably just as safe because it's not based on gender, race, ethnicity, religion, any of those things.
It looks to me like a lottery is the easiest way, the simplest way to clear this up.
Mm-hmm. And in my mind, the issue is notice to the applicants. That's the main part.
Commissioner Durham.
Are we still talking about entry positions?
Talking about entry only, yes.
Yes, entry only.
When my son joined Little Rock Fire Department, he was on the list of 20, but yet there was about 20 other people on another list that if any of these guys didn't show up the first day, they started going down the list.
Well, I think that's, when the chiefs request a list from us, they get the top 3, and they have the right to reject any or all of that top 3 and come back and say, send me another list. The only thing that they're required to do is send us something in writing, the reason why that person or those individuals were rejected, in case we do have backlash. But that's left up to them to decide. And I think my concern, since this has come up, is that the probability of us having 2 90s and 2 89s is high. That's high. And we are testing more and more individuals now. So we need clarity, and we need something in writing so that we can also, I would like to make this part of the announcement.
Okay.
When we send out the announcement for entry level, this is how we're doing it. And because right now we're telling us basically on 70, the top 3. The next logical question is, what if there are 4 of us? What do you do? I would like to have that out there and put it on the announcement.
It looks like to me we probably got 2. We've either got the option of tabling this and letting the city attorney research the legality part of giving more than 3 names, or we've got the option of simply, if there's a tie, using a lottery type system to pick to break the tie.
To me, that solves our problem.
Do I?
To me, that solves our problem in a very simple way.
Again, do we want to let the city attorney research this and get an answer on that question first, or do we want a motion to, again, realize that we can't make a final decision tonight anyway?
Right.
But I would probably like to have the city attorney just look at this and just see if she can tell us that way. Then we've got the option of going either way or not. If the giving more than 3 is not an option, then it's pretty simple.
But to also include research on the lottery and how it would need to be done.
Certainly, I'll be happy to.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you could still get, even though, I mean, there could still be accusations there, obviously. So, is the agreement to table this till the next meeting, give the city attorney time to, so, we don't need a motion on that. We just ask the city attorney to bring that back to us, and then we'll discuss this further next month. All right, good discussion. Then the last issue on the agenda, again, Director James, we've already voted to table that indefinitely pending the city coming back to us with a, if they feel like there's some proposal there on the veteran status. So that concludes the agenda items. I'll open the floor up again for any discussion, further discussion on any agenda item or otherwise. Anything from the floor? Anything from Director James?
No, sir.
City Attorney? Commissioners? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Motion second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed say no. Where's the button? Did you get it?
Okay, pow. I'll have Joshua check this tomorrow and see what we got here. If he finished that, check it tomorrow.